When I speak to my friends who are still in the matrix, I always tell them, why don't you start a business? And they always answer the same response, which is, I don't have an idea. And see, being an entrepreneur, I simply see ideas everywhere, and I constantly have to restrain myself to starting a new business simply because I see opportunities everywhere. And I think every entrepreneur out there has the same thought as me. So I try to understand why, and why when you haven't started, it always feels like there's nothing to do, when once you have started, it feels like you can do anything. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing my findings and my conclusions as to how to find business ideas and why people who are already doing things are getting so many more ideas than people who haven't started. So let's get right into it, and let's start with the basics of the basics. What is a business? See, a business is simply an entity which exchanges value for money. So we need to understand what is value. And I know that you might think you already know, but there's two types of value, which is customer value and business value. So what's the difference between these two things, you might say? What's customer value and what's business value? See, customer value is what everybody sees. It's the end product of the end product of the end product. It's us, it's people. It's the needs that people have, right? So people, we need food, we need transportation, we need housing, we need all these things. My drawings are not too great, but we need all these things, which basically are the backbone of the economy. The whole economy is based on our needs. And if we didn't have any needs, there wouldn't be an economy, and we would all, live in a cave and be completely broke and not have anything to do. So this is the obvious thing. And this is usually where people first start business, right? They start a fashion brand because everybody needs to dress, but that's not necessarily a great way to start. So let me explain. The second type of value is business value. So see, every single one of these needs are provided by businesses, right? So whether that's food, transportation, cars, water, apartments, and there are businesses that are selling this end product to us. But before this business is able to sell something to us, it required an enormous amount of collective work of multiple businesses in order to provide this service to us. So let's say transportation and airline. You could go on for hours about the amount of businesses which have helped simply get one person a ticket, right? Imagine the number of companies that were involved in your purchase of your airplane ticket. There's the airline itself, there's Boeing who made, there's the thousands of companies who made the components to provide the Boeing. There's the marketing company that allowed you to hear about the airline. There's the person who, the security, there's all the airports, and imagine within the airport, the amount of companies that were involved. Just simply think of the cleaning company for the airports was paid by your purchase of your airline ticket. So see, you get my point. The customer value is the end product, and the business value is everything that's involved into creating this. And the reason why it's so hard for most people to understand different businesses and what they can start is because they only have visibility on customer value, and they have very little visibility or understanding on business value. And this is why someone like me, who's already involved in business, can see all these different aspects, all these different ideas, this backhand essentially, which requires much more skill and many different things that this doesn't require. So if you haven't started a business, you'll essentially be on top of the pyramid of the economic value. So here, let me just draw an eye. So this is, the human eye and what we can see. If you're here, you can literally see all the top part of the pyramid of economic value, which is, what we buy, what we eat, where we live, with the car we take, their hairdresser. This is all above this. And don't get me wrong, there are many businesses to start here. But the problem with this is because it's so visible, so many people can start a business here, and so many people are starting businesses like here. So let's say my friend, I could tell him, start a clothing company. And he would tell me, but that's ridiculous. There's so many businesses, so many people trying to do a clothing brand. And yes, there is. Now, don't get me wrong, you can definitely make it by making a clothing brand. I started at the top of this pyramid as well, and I made a cap brand. But before that, let me just explain. The further down you go, the more skills are required. And the further up you are, the less skills are required to understand the business, right? Of course, doing the business is different, but in order to understand the top part business, it's very easy, right? You know you need clothing, you know you're going to need to produce it, you're going to need to sell it, and that's it. Here, at all the bottom of the economic pyramid is where it gets really tough. See, at all the bottom in like a clothing brand, you can see the person who came up with the materials, right? The person who took the raw material, which was cotton, and made it into this fabric. See, this is the bottom of the bottom, and every industry has its own bottom, but here, let's keep it simple. So to come back to the main point, right? Me, when I started, I made a cap brand, and that was a very simple business to start. But after starting my cap brand, I realized that actually so many people wanted to start cap brands, and so many businesses were struggling to produce their products for a good price locally and with different things that they care about. So I realized instead of just making my cap brand and, taking 1% of the market, I could help 99% of the market to better produce their caps, right? So instead of being against competitors, I'm going to help competitors make money. And if they make more money, I make more money, right? So, and at the end of, the customer value, people compete for market share, but with businesses, essentially you're helping the entirety of the customer values market. So to give you a different example, Alex Hormozi started by making a gym, right? A gym is consumer value, everybody can see it. But then he realized one thing, right? Gyms actually have a hard time finding people. So instead of making money making gyms, which is at the top line of the pyramid, he realized he could help people get more customers and make more value and go further down the pyramid of value and the pyramid of skill and make more money. After that, he realized that he was so good at starting and scaling companies, he could go down the pyramid of value, not only help gym owners make more money, but help business people who understand how to help more businesses. And, this is in the info product space, but this applies to any space at all. It's essentially, the further down this pyramid you go, the more opportunity there is, because the more inefficiencies you can perceive and you can see. And the thing is, the money always comes through here. The more opportunity you can see. Let's take a step back here. I know I'm saying a lot. You have to understand this. All the money comes here and funnels down all the way back to raw materials, right? And profit is made along the way. Every company is taking their share until the raw material person is taking their share as well. And essentially where you want to position yourself is understanding at what level are people making the most amount of money. And usually this is proportional to the difficulty of the problem that you're doing. So see, with raw materials, it's very easy to just dig out some dirt or get some cotton. So here, you don't want to be there because there's very few margins. However, here as well, it's very difficult because there's very high marketing costs, there's very high competitive costs, so there's very little money all at the top. Where all the money lies is in between here and here, which is what I call the golden zone. And the golden zone is where all the people on Instagram you see who make so much money, at a relatively young age are making so much money, is that space where you can help people optimize their lives, optimize their businesses, sell more products, adapt to new trends like AI, etc. So you have a huge amount of value because you have a lot of skills that are involved, but you're not too deep into this pyramid where, you're creating, you're innovating AI, for example, or you are a startup. So here, all this part, I would say, is like Google, Facebook, all these people who are building software, really creating things. And that's a great way to make a lot of money. But for most people watching this, for most people out there, you're much better off here. So, okay, now that I said this important part, so you need to get into that pyramid. So there's three ways of going down that economic value. The first one is obviously studying. So see, if you study engineering and, like a very complex things, you're going to be able to go down that value pretty quickly. And that's why engineers make a lot of money, because they're able to solve complex issues. However, we know that we don't want to go this way, because we don't want to study 10 years. We want to start making more money quicker. So this is the second way, which is getting a job. So when you get a job, in a firm, you're going to learn and you're going to go down that pyramid of value, and you're going to understand more about the market you're in. The problem with this is it's very slow, and you're going to learn very little, because all the responsibility, the decisions are taken by the people above you who are trusted more by the company. So unless you're in a startup or a very specific environment, getting a job will be the worst way to do it. And the best way to do it is obviously to start a business. And so everything comes down to this. The answer to your question and the answer to how do you get business ideas is by starting a business, right? And I know this is contradictory and maybe not what you wanted to hear, but it's the only way you're actually gonna get ideas. Starting a business, no matter what that is, find something that is going to occupy you, that's going to take your attention 10 hours a day. Build up a business in this, and soon enough, you'll realize new opportunities that are extremely good and better, that will allow you to really step up your game. So even if Hormozi made his money, selling info products to gym owners and then now doing acquisition.com, he had to go through the step of starting a gym, of being just a small regular gym owner, in order to understand these opportunities. And it's the same way. If you don't go into that pyramid of economic value, if you don't put your foot in the door, you will simply never get these ideas which will make you rich. You will never get the idea that will make you rich before you actually step into the game. So that's the answer to your question. How do you find ideas? Start building a business.